So it's my pleasure to welcome back Eric Christopher. Yep.
Thank you for inviting me back today. Thank you for that warm introduction. If anybody wants a card or more information, I got some cards right there. But thank you for welcoming me back to this beautiful, maybe it's a dance-off now. Thanks for inviting me back to speak here on this gorgeous fall, autumn morning in this wondrous mecca of expansion, opportunity, and growth for people. Lake Harriet Spiritual Community certainly provides an open door for so many people when they're on the personal and spiritual growth path. This month's theme, I'm told, is opening doors, and that made me think about all the doors that opened for me in my life to help me do the work that I do, which is about helping people open doors within themselves to a higher level of consciousness for the purposes of healing, gaining insight, wisdom, and clarity. And I'm going to share several examples of that. And then I'm going to do a guided journey with everyone for about 15, 20 minutes to help you connect to your own higher guidance and your own higher level of consciousness. Now, for some people, that's kind of an odd concept. Well, how do I get to a higher level of consciousness than what I'm at right now? How do you do that? Well, stay tuned. We'll find out. It's important to know if this is new stuff for you. It does sound kind of strange. How do you connect to a higher level of consciousness? Well, the fact of the matter is that we are these eternal beings, and we are multidimensional beings. Yes, we're these bodies, of course, but we're also the light, energy, and consciousness that animates these bodies. And this energy ultimately all comes from the same one energy source. So we're oneness, we're these individual souls, and we're using these bodies. And I think the best evidence of that is the evidence of reincarnation. Right now, there's enough evidence of reincarnation that even a logical-minded skeptic can believe in reincarnation just on the sheer evidence of that. And so it's good to get your left brain involved. And we're talking evidence of children that remember past lives, and then there's researchers that go and verify that. You can just go to YouTube and type in children who remember past lives. You're going to find a lot of, fascinating cases. But that's just one of many. And to help people, there was a lawyer named Victor Zammit to help people get their left brain, analytical mind that's really based in this physical dimension that only really takes in information based on the senses here, to help this left brain get a little more open to the idea that there's something far more than this physical realm. He wrote a book called A Lawyer Presents the Evidence of the Afterlife. And essentially in that book, he's basically saying, look, if you put all the evidence of the afterlife in the court of law, it would win easily and unanimously. So that's a book to help people get their left brain around, we really are these multidimensional beings. Science and spirituality is slowly converging here, if you decide to look at the evidence of that. So, I think what I'd like to do today is share a little bit about how doors have opened for me to do the work that I do as a result of doors closing, as a result of failure and loss. Eckhart Tolle, many of you, the author of The Power of Now, he once said, we tend to grow the most personally and spiritually on the heels of tragedy or loss or failure. And that was the case with me as I graduated in 1988 from St. Olaf College, and I was looking for a teaching job. I couldn't find a teaching job anywhere. It just one rejection letter after another. You feel like you're walking around with a big L on your head. And that opened a door to get me to consider, let's explore opportunities teaching English abroad, overseas. So I did that, and at the time, it was very easy to find a teaching job in Taiwan, teaching English. So I got a job teaching English there, and that expanded my horizons. But then a door closed again when I had to leave the country because my work visa expired. But then that opened the door to traveling around Nepal and India and Thailand. And I was so enamored with India, it had an effect on me that I decided to go back 2 other times and backpack around the country. And when I did that, so many other doors opened for me. I learned about meditation. I learned about yoga. And I had some very mystical experiences there that defied the laws of physics, that at least made me experience. And they say that one experience is worth 1,000 case studies. And I had an experience that made me know that we're far more than these bodies, and that there is another reality that was beyond this physical realm. So I had a few of those experiences, and that might be a subject for another talk. I'm not going to get into that today. But that thought kept dropping into me about, it stayed with me. Were these souls having a human experience? And in India, everyone already knows that. I mean, I grew up, my dad was a Methodist minister. And so, of course, you don't, that's not, the foremost in your mind. You're the soul having a human experience. There's no talk about that. But in India, pretty much everyone, it's a given. It's like, you're telling me the sky is blue, of course. So that was always, when I came back here, that was swimming in the back of my mind. And then another door opened for me in a very ordinary moment. I got a job on a psychiatric unit, which I ended up working there part-time for 23 years. But one day, I'm there and I see this other nurse that worked on the other unit. And I knew this nurse was on the spiritual path, and I knew that he was kind of a new ager of sorts. And as he walked by, I wasn't even planning this. I saw myself blurting out, his name was Dale. Dale, what book should I read? And he stopped, got a smile on his face, and he just said, Journey of Souls by Michael Newton. And he just kept on walking. And I got that book, and I read it, and it changed my life. When I read that book, I finally knew. I was kind of floating around like a feather in the wind at that point, wondering, what should I do with my life? And then I said, this is what I want to do. If I got to get training with this guy before he retires. Fortunately, I was able to do that. So if you haven't heard of that book, Journey of Souls, what it is, a brief synopsis of it, was Michael Newton was this psychologist, and he was a self-proclaimed atheist and skeptic. But he... what he noticed, he'd get in his clients in a deep state of trance because he would use hypnotherapy. And while they were in a deep state of trance, he'd say, go to the source of your issue. And once in a while, they're going into other lives. And he didn't know what to make of that because he didn't necessarily believe that. An example is one guy went to the source of his back pain in World War I. So Michael Newton starts grilling him with questions. Well, what's your name? Who's your commanding officer? What's your hometown? What's your rank? And the guy just kind of blurted out information when he's in that trance-like state. It's a slow brainwave state. You're accessing your unconscious. He just blurted out. Michael Newton then was able to go back and verify all this information through some medical records. And then he does that for a couple of different times, a couple of different clients. And he says, okay, I think there's something to this reincarnation thing, past lives. There's a part of us that lives on and on. What happens if I take him to the end of the life and I regress him a little bit further? Where does their soul go? What does it do? And he ends up doing that for like 3,600 people. And he said there's such amazing consistencies with what people are saying about where their soul is going. What is it up to? And he said there's far too many consistencies for this to be, coincidence. And so he ends up kind of cataloging all of these consistencies in this book, Journey of Souls. But one of the other things that he notices every time the person is moving in, when the life is over and you're moving up to a higher vibration, it certainly feels like you're moving to a higher vibration. They become more love-based. They all of a sudden have insights, wisdom, and clarity that drop in. That'll say, oh my gosh, that makes total sense why I would have picked my mom and my dad in this life. That's what I was trying to accomplish. So it's almost like a mini near-death experience without having to kill self or die. Not necessarily that dramatic, but the results for many people are very profound in healing. So he found that just that inner journey was very profound for so many people. Thus, I read the book and thought, I want to do that. And so I think I want to share some. The other thing I wanted to mention about that book, I've seen hundreds of people that somehow stumble across that book on the heels of a loved one dying. And that begins their journey of exploring this spiritual realm that's on the other side of this life. I mean, you can see my finger. If I move it super fast, you can't see it. Well, just think of the spiritual realms as being at a much higher vibration that we don't see. And people, when the time is right for them, when they're ripe and ready as a person, as a soul, and it may not even be this lifetime, they begin to open up to the idea of the spiritual realm and that, hey, we're here for a purpose and a reason. And so therefore, that book has changed a lot of people's lives. But that was written in the 90s. A lot of other good books out there these days. So I'm going to share a few case examples. And the reason I'm sharing case examples is the theme of this is that as you go within, you tend to get something you need. Lao Tzu, founder of Taoism, said, within you, within your being, lies unimaginable resources. And that's so true. As you go within, you can get answers and wisdom and clarity. Here's an example. The modality, and you can do that in many different ways. It doesn't have to be past life regression. It can be, meditation. Some people are using psychedelics these days. But there's all different modalities of going within. My modality is past life regression. An example of that. And by the way, I've had people that don't even believe in reincarnation do past life regression and have wonderful experiences, but they want to choose to interpret it as a symbolic metaphor rather than an actual past life. And it doesn't matter. You get positive results either way. I happen to believe that most of these are past lives just because for me it feels like it makes sense, and plus the research that I've done and also my clients. But case number one, a woman came to me recently. These are all cases within the last couple of months. I've been doing this now for 20 years, but the ones I'm sharing have been recent. And she came to me because she had anxiety, a lot of anxiety that she always had in her life. And she said, and it really is disproportionate to any, trauma growing up experience. In fact, she said, my growing up experience was lovely, had a great time, but she always had this fear energy and anxiety. So she goes to a past life where she sees herself growing up on a farm and then going to World War I. And while she's in World War I, she remarks that she really makes some really good friends with these comrades, with her fellow soldiers, and some of them are so funny, and they use humor to help cover up the fear that everyone's feeling, or the gore, or the horrors of war. They're using a lot of humor, so she remembers that. But as the life progressed a little bit, that's where she died, in a lot of chaos, terror, So in her soul realm, she could see, that was where a lot of the fear energy came from in this life. And the Tibetans are a very spiritual people, and they'll say that we have a physical energy bodies, mental and emotional energy bodies. And if you die in a traumatic way sometimes, or you have unresolved stuff, it can carry over into another incarnation. And I've seen that hundreds, if not thousands of times. And so with her, we could see that fear energy and do some energetic releasing and letting go of it, so that wasn't sticking. At least a big layer of her anxiety went away. But before she emerged and came back, her higher mind, and it works this way, just showed her another life where she was working with horses. And she's saying, I really love working with horses. It's really good. I'm a rancher. But then when you're in one of these lives, it's like information will drop down bit by bit by bit, puzzle pieces of like a download. And she started saying, oh, I'm not a very nice person here. She was a male again, man. She said, I'm not very nice to my wife. I'm not very nice to my 2 kids. I'm mean. I'm cruel. I'm very cold and distant. And they get tired of me. They get sick of me, and they leave. And she ends up seeing herself dying as a lonely, sad, bitter, and regretful man. Now in the soul realm, she's able to see, oh wow, that totally makes sense. Why now in this life I'm always attracting relationships that make me feel the same way that I made them feel in that past life, my family and kids. So what she could see is 2 different laws happening. The law of attraction, which is about the energy of fear attracting people, situations, any circumstances that match this inner vibration of fear, but also the law of karma coming to place where she says, I came here in this life to clear that up, heal the fear energy, and understand with this law of karma thing, okay, once she could get that at a higher level, what was happening, she can clear that. And I think she sent me an email about 2 weeks after the session saying how very helpful and healing that was for her, this session. Case number 2, woman came to me who she was, I have them written down, I'm seeing if I can memorize it. Case number 2, this was the woman that came to me, heavy feelings and beliefs of unworthiness, not good enough, unlovable. Well, it made sense in this life that she would feel that because she grew up in a home in which her mom and her dad were abusive. They were neglectful. They didn't make her feel very loved and valued. And normally, when it's this life related, I usually will do a different session called emotional healing session, which is more about healing and releasing the energies from this present life. But she wanted to do past life regression, and she felt guided to do that. And when she has that intuitive inner wisdom, that's coming from somewhere, so we go with that. Well, what did her higher mind want to show her? Her higher mind wanted to show her a life where she grew up very poor. She was a boy, grew up very poor without a father, and had a younger sister. But her mother, his mother, I should say, was very kind and loving. And he grew up feeling like he was helping support his mother, his younger sister, grew up with a lot of strong self-esteem. She said, boy, I never felt this kind of self-esteem and confidence ever in my present life, but she could feel strong self-confidence and self-esteem in that life. And ended up marrying a very loving wife, and they had a great life. I'm condensing a whole lifetime down in like 30 seconds, but that was a synopsis in a 2-hour in a session in 30 seconds. But in the gist of it, that was what her life. And in the soul realm, she could see, oh, wow. She could see the difference it made growing up feeling loved and wanted and valued and cherished and safe and secure. How much of a difference that made in her self-esteem, in feeling lovable and worthy of love. And she realized these beliefs of not good enough and unworthy, they have nothing to do with me. They have everything to do with my parents in this life that were too hurt and were just operating unconsciously from their own trauma and baggage to be fully present with me in the way I needed them to be. So she could see then that beliefs and unworthiness had nothing basically to do with her. It was all the programming and conditioning. And when she could get that at a higher, deeper level, and she's getting at that higher, deeper level in this slower brainwave state. And when that happens, the messages that come in get really, they get deeply embedded in your subconscious mind. Here's something interesting. When children are up to about to the age of 8 years old, they're in that slower brainwave state predominantly. So therefore, the messages you take on when you're young in this life is very easily embedded in your subconscious mind. And it's hard to really let go of those beliefs unless you do some work with it, consciously with that. So she later wrote to me a couple of weeks later, she said, that past life regression changed my life. It changed how I feel about myself in a positive way. I now feel worthy, confident, lighter, and happier. So all we did was simply opened a door within her own conscious to connect to her higher self, her higher way of being, and that showed her what she needed to see. As you go within, you tend to get what you need. And I always like to quote Albert Einstein when he said, sometimes you can't solve a problem at the same level of consciousness that created it. But if you go to a higher level, you can. And that's the, this going within work, that's the theme of it. Case number 3. Woman came to me. I see about 75 to 80% women, by the way, and I'm told that my teacher said that's because women operate from the upper chakras more, men from the lower chakras, and they're more akin to doing this kind of work in general. But she came to me because most of her life, she just had a heavy feeling of anger and grief about even being here on earth. Why does this have to be such a hard place of suffering? And she didn't have the greatest of growing up experiences, but it wasn't overly traumatic either. But why she always had that carry? So I can't answer that. So, but her own higher self can. So she went to a life and she saw a life where she was African American man growing up as a sharecropper in the deep South. There was he wasn't treated very well, a lot of abuse, and it was a very difficult, hard life of struggle, and ended up dying at the hands of some white supremacists. When that life was over, she could see from the vantage point of the soul, okay, that explains why the anger, the grief at earth life. But her higher mind didn't want to stop there. Her higher mind then, almost immediately, she started seeing images of a different life where she was in a monastery and she was a nun, but she was in this cloistered nun. But in that life, she had such a strong connection to spirit and nature. She had all these different oneness experiences happening. And she was in a small cloistered group where many of the women there were on the same wavelength with her. And she said, this is just absolute bliss, being in the density of this body, but feeling this bliss and this joy and this connection with spirit and nature, this oneness experiences that she would have periodically. So from the vantage point of the soul, she could see, that life was the perfect antidote to this belief that all earth lives have to be those of suffering and agony and anger and grief and loss. And lastly, case number 4. A woman came to me, another woman. I don't know, 20% are men, really. She saw a past life where she was a female, grew up in a very poor family, on a farm. She had a younger sister. Her mother died of some illness, but father was there. But he started getting ill, and he started getting so ill that he couldn't even work the plow anymore. And then she tried working the plow, but she was too weak. She was just a teenager, and wasn't able to do that. He's getting sicker. They decide, well, let's move to the city. I'll try to find some work. There's resources. They move to a city. They move to kind of a seedy part of town, and where the rent was cheap. They got an apartment. Dad is really getting ill, and he's no longer able to work, so she tries to find work and does find work as a seamstress. Problem is she's not good at it, and she needs to provide, and she gets fired from her job. And she feels pressure. I need to find money to pay the rent, to help feed mom and the dad and my younger sister. So she starts prostituting herself. And she has such a moral conflict with it because in her growing up experience, she's kind of puritanical in a way. All of that was just something you just didn't do. Prostitution, oh my God, she felt such shame and horror doing that. She couldn't tell anybody, couldn't tell her dad or her younger sister. Eventually her dad dies, and she has her younger sister shipped off to move a great distance to live with an aunt. She's so full of shame, she goes back to the family farm and kills herself. And she knows prior to killing herself, there is a man or a boy that's around her age that would be very interested in marrying her. But she was so full of shame and guilt and tainted. She felt tainted in her mind that I just couldn't do that, and he wouldn't want me. Those were the beliefs, and she ended up killing herself. And then in the soul realm, she was able to see, okay, this explains so much. The lesson in that life was all about forgiveness, forgiving of myself, and having understanding and compassion for myself. And I didn't do that in that life. And that explains also in this life why I had a lot of suicidal tendencies in this life. That same, when she died in that life, most of the time you're going to feel as though your consciousness just lifts up higher and higher. And that happens 80, 90% of the time, 95% of the time, I would say, really. An almost natural pull. But sometimes the soul remains stuck there. And when that happens, that's like a sliver of her consciousness that's still stuck there. There's something unresolved. And we just get it to move up into the light. And then that becomes what we call like a Western version of a soul retrieval. But after that, then we did that. She said that in this life prior, she was carrying a lot of shame still, that some of it just seemed out of proportion to anything in this life. Her husband, she was kept at a distance. But after that life, she said, quote in her words, that she felt it was a profound healing. She felt so much lighter, and even her husband could notice the difference between their closeness after that. And so the reason I'm sharing these is it's the theme that as we go within, we have unimaginable resources within us, and that we can connect to a higher level of consciousness. And that's something that I would like to share with you today to give you a sample of. Now, granted, of course, this is not a 2 to 3 hour session we're doing, but we're going to do a guided journey. And the way to do a guided journey, you can participate or not. If you kind of, and I tell everyone this too, you control the gas pedal as to how far deep you go into this. To the degree that you can, say, imagine smelling some flowers is a degree that you're going to go deeper into this trance or hypnotic experience. Don't be afraid of the word hypnosis. You're still going to be awake and aware the whole time. But it's like a guided journey that we're doing. And what pulls you out is this chatterbox thinking mind. That's the thing that pulls you out. That's based in this reality here. So if you're thinking about, what should I have for lunch today? Or do I have any errands to run on the way home? I always tell all my clients that will pull you out. And you can just ignore it if you want to. Just ignore it and keep focusing on whatever I'm showing you or your own inner journey. So keep focusing on your own inner journey experience. And so this will last about 15, 20 minutes maybe, maybe closer to 15. So if you'd like, I think it's helpful to close your eyes, get yourself in a very comfortable place. And the first step is just to close your eyes, and step number 2 would just be to imagine that you place a circle of light around you about an arm's length away. And then imagine, even if you get a vague thought about it, that's good enough. And now you imagine that you draw a dark curtain on anything outside of that circle of light, just so that anything that might serve as a distraction for the next 15 minutes, let that all fade away to non-existence. And that's anything in work life, home life, things on the to-do list. You can pick it all up again later afterwards, of course. But for the next 15 minutes, let yourself only focus on my words and on that which is on the inside of the circle of light, that which is in your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual energy bodies. And of course, be open to receive any information that would like to drop in from your own higher guidance system. So now, I'm going to play a tone. And as you follow the tone into the silence, I'm going to do a little exercise before you follow the tone into the silence. Put all of your focus and attention and awareness on your eyelids. Now, in order for you to open your eyes, you have to work the tiny little muscles in your eyelids. So for the next few moments, have those little muscles in your eyelids, have them be so relaxed that they're just not going to want to work to open. And when you know you've done that, hold on to that relaxation, and then you can give them a good test to make sure that your eyelid muscles are just too relaxed to even work to open. And notice where that level of relaxation needs to be, because that's the same quality of relaxation that I'd like you to let yourself have throughout your entire body. So let's bring that same quality of relaxation, and in this moment, bring it on up to the top of your head, letting the top of your head really let go and relax. And now, like a wave, let's send this relaxation down through your body, from the top of your head all the way down and through. Imagining it going down like a wave, going down through the head and neck and shoulders, sliding down the arms all the way into the fingers and hands, sliding down into the upper torso, down into the lower torso, relaxing all of the internal organs, moving into the hips and the pelvis, and sliding down the legs all the way down into the ankles, feet, and toes, letting go of every muscle, every nerve, every fiber, allowing yourself to relax much deeper, deeper, relaxed, letting every cell, molecule, and atom of your being and all of this space in between, let that all just be relaxed. And while you're feeling that, I'm going to play the tone from this crystal healing singing bowl. And as you follow the tone into the silence, allow any remaining tension in the body to simply melt away, and allow your mind to become even more calm and still and serene as you follow the tone into the silence. All thoughts of future fade away, and all thoughts of past just disappear as you allow yourself to rest, to bask in this eternal present moment of now. Because when the focus and attention is solidly anchored in this now time, that is when insights, wisdom, and clarity can drop in from your higher mind or your higher guidance system. So now in just this moment, see or feel or imagine yourself walking down a hallway, feeling your feet as you're walking down this hallway. And up ahead is a door. And on the other side of that door is a beautiful garden. So as you walk on up to the door, you can feel your hand on the doorknob opening it. You now go outside into a beautiful garden. And while you're stepping deeper into the garden, that hallway fades away behind you, and you can kick off your shoes if you'd like and feel the soft grass beneath your feet. And as you step deeper into the garden, you begin to notice the smells of this fragrant place and the sounds, perhaps a few birds in the distance. And you find yourself being drawn to an area of the garden that has some very large, fragrant flowers. And as you approach these flowers, you single out the largest and most beautiful of them all. And you approach that flower now with your hand outstretched. And you now begin to feel the soft velvety petals of that flower between your thumb and fingers. And then you can place your nose in the center of that flower and you inhale that beautiful aroma, allowing that perfume fragrance to flood through your whole being, relaxing you even deeper into your own present moment experience. But now in a few moments I'm going to play a tone, and when you hear the sound of the tone, that will be a signal for you to drift on up outside of yourself and look down at yourself from a third person point of view. It'll be as if you're just lifting on up and looking down and noticing your body down there, enjoying yourself in the garden. 3, 2, and now 1. And you now lift on up and you look down and you can see your body down there having a good time in the garden, and you can just notice the top of your head down there. And even if you just get a vague thought about it, that's good enough. And now you allow your consciousness to lightly and freely begin to drift up higher and higher, so that you can look down and see more and more of that garden down there. Soon you can see a mile or so around that garden, and you can see that your body is getting much smaller as your consciousness continues to float higher and higher. And then as you float higher still, you just temporarily, for a few minutes, you leave down behind there that body and mind identity of your body self, and you more begin to tune into and identify with that light and energy and consciousness that animates your body. You more begin to tune into and identify with that soul self of pure consciousness as you lightly and freely drift higher and higher. So high now that you can see the curvature of the earth. And you now leave the Earth's atmosphere, you enter outer space, you turn around and see that Earth down there getting smaller and smaller as you drift higher, further, deeper into space. And soon that Earth down there is looking so small that it looks as though it could be about the size of a golf ball down there. And as you drift even higher and higher still, that Earth gets smaller and smaller, down to the size of a pea, and then down to the size of a grain of sand. And as you drift higher still, that Earth just completely disappears. And you turn around and look up, and you continue to drift higher, further, deeper into space, away from where that Earth was. And in the distance, there's a light. In your mind's eye, you simply create a light. This is the light of source energy. This is the light of home, home in the ultimate sense. And as you find yourself drifting and floating closer and closer to that light, you begin to feel a growing sense of warmth, a growing sense of peace, a growing sense of well-being that continues to grow stronger as you get closer to that light. It's as though you're magnetically drawn to this light, just as this light is magnetically drawn to you. And it is as though you are floating towards that light on an energy current that guides you and pulls you higher, further, deeper towards this light. And now you're getting so close that you can now allow the outer reaches of this light in this moment, as you're feeling an even stronger sense of calm and peace and well-being. You now allow the outer reaches of this light to lovingly envelope you and now pull you into its center, so that you, as this energy being, just merge into the very heart and center of this light of source energy. And you simply rest here. You simply rest here, and you begin to soak in these high vibrations like a sponge, allowing them to saturate your whole being. And you give the gift of your full presence to this light of source energy. And you allow the light of source energy to give you the gift of its full presence. And you now begin to breathe in and actually feel certain specific qualities of this light of source energy. One of the qualities of this light of source energy is of deep peace. So in this moment, you now breathe in right into the heart center, that vibration of source energy, which is peace. You breathe it in the heart center on the inhalation, and on the exhalation, letting that vibration of peace simply flood through your whole being, feeling what that feels like. And you cannot feel it from your head. You have to let your consciousness slide right down into the heart center as you breathe in that vibration of peace on the inhalation, and on the exhalation, letting it flood through every cell and molecule and atom of your being and all of the space in between. So you feel what that vibration of peace feels like, and record what that vibration feels like, because we're going to compare that now with a vibration of joy. So in this moment, you now breathe in the vibration of joy right into the heart center, feeling that vibration of joy, and the exhalation as it spreads through your whole being. And you feel what joy feels like in comparison to peace. Most people will say that joy feels a little more vibrant and alive. And now you breathe in the vibrations of unconditional love and acceptance right into your heart center, feeling what that feels like, especially on the exhalation as it spreads through your being. And there's one other quality of source energy that we're tuning into now, and that is the quality of pure safety and security. And as you're breathing in that vibration of pure safety and security, you can relax your focus now and just breathe in a combination of all of these qualities of source energy. A combination of peace, of joy, of unconditional love and acceptance, pure safety and security. And now with this tone, as you follow the tone into the silence, allow that to enable you to relax deeper and deeper into your own present moment experience of resting and basking in and as this light of source energy. Allow the vibrations just to allow your whole being to begin to just melt into this light of source energy and expand out on all sides into infinity as you follow the tone into the silence. So as you're basking and resting in this expansive state, it may feel as though there isn't anything in the universe that can harm you from this vantage point. And the truth is that there isn't anything that can harm the most permanent, the most real, the most authentic part of you. After all, how can oneness be harmed? And this is a truth that you can beam down into your present body-mind system. But while you're resting here, just let yourself continue to rest in here. And while you're resting, you look down to where the earth used to be. And instead of the earth there's a line. Duality is now created. There's you in this line. And you can see that this is a timeline of your life. And the future is way off to the right. And the past is to the left. And the present is straight below. And while you're resting above your timeline of your life, let yourself begin to continue to rest and bask in this light of source energy, but you begin to focus all the way over to the far left, all the way to the very beginning of the expression of you. And you move ahead about 2 months so that you look down and you now get an impression of the 2-month-old infant version of yourself. And I'm going to ask a question, and you can answer this question with what feels the truest silently into yourself. As you look at that 2-month-old infant version of yourself, ideally, we're talking ideally now, should he or she be ideally made to feel loved or wanted and valued and safe and secure? Well, the answer is yes, of course. And is that young infant worthy of love? Of course. Is that young infant self deserving of success and love in his or her life? Yes, of course, that's true. And he and she is good enough down there. They are worthy of love, and that is just truth. And all we're concerned of here is truth. So you might see that as you see yourself growing up now to age 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, the teenage years, 20s, 30s, so on, you can see that as you grow up, life is not always that beautiful. Life can sometimes make you feel devalued, not wanted, not good enough. But the truth is, you really are. The truth is, you are this brilliant being that's whole and complete. And so from this high vantage point, you can actually release and let go of any beliefs, of any guilt, of any shame. Just know that this earth life is all about coming and learning and growing and evolving. Most humans only grow by trial and error. So there really are no mistakes down there. There's only opportunities to grow and learn. So any shame, any guilt, any feelings of not good enough, we can just let them all go. Feel what it feels like to release that heavy, dense thought form energy. And while you feel that, you can let that energy just go straight into an incinerator to be converted to pure source energy. And now, you can now invite into your whole being that part of you that was covered up and lost when you were carrying that heavy, dense energy, that old programming and conditioning that didn't serve you. And you now see, feel, and sense that lighter energy coming back to you as a beam of light. You now get back that part of you that was lost and covered up, and you get back your own potential. See it, feel it, sense it now coming back to you. And now, with this light, you can beam it down to all the parts of you that needed it down there. And you can now drift over to the very present and future. And this is where you can create that next best, grandest version of yourself down there. You can create a version of yourself in which it is as though your body and mind system is a totally clear vessel for the brilliance of your soul self to shine through. Totally unimpeded by any heavy, dense programming or conditioning that no longer serves you or serves the planet. And you see yourself moving forward as the truth of who and what you truly are. You come from love, you go back to love, and you are a being of love while you're here. You come from love, you go back to love, and you are love while you're here. And notice what that will look like and feel like and be like when you know yourself at a deep level as this true being of love and of wholeness and completeness. Notice how you interact with others and how others respond to you and how in turn that feels. And that is the energies that we are going to bring back with you today. So now I'm going to count up from 1 up to 5. As I reach the count of 5, you can allow yourself to emerge feeling refreshed, alive, alert, and feeling better in every way. 1, coming back together, body, mind, and soul, all together as one in your present body and mind system. 2, leaving behind any heavy, dense energies in the forms of thoughts, feelings, or beliefs that no longer serve or benefit you. And instead, bring back with you the thoughts, feelings, and beliefs and perspectives that do benefit and serve you and are based in a higher truth. Bring all this back with you now as I count 3, and you now begin to feel the full support of the chair beneath the back and beneath the legs. Taking deeper breaths into the body as I count 4. Feeling the arms and legs in the chair, feeling body in the chair, feeling breath in the body. Breath is the link between the body and this eternal part of you. So from this day forward, as you tune into the breath, you'll tune into this eternal free part of you. And now with that, take one more nice, deep, purifying and cleansing breath. And 5. and wide awake. And welcome back to this dimension. So, the theme is, as you go deep within, you have unimaginable resources. And as you go within, you can find peace, joy, kind of what we're looking for, what this body-mind system is looking for. We can find that within. So, thank you. And, okay. May we all continue to grow and evolve from ignorance to wisdom, from restlessness to peace, from desires to contentment. And may we all continue to grow and evolve in our awareness and of our knowing that we are these eternal, wonderful, whole, complete, magnificent souls using these body and mind systems to grow and evolve, and know that we come from love, we go back to love, and we are beings of love while we're here. Om, peace, and amen. All right. Thank you.